This video is going to feature a guest artist, Aubrey Joy. They designed this figure that I'm going to be sculpting. It is their own original character named Egg, who is a little trans raccoon. So I'm starting off with their concept art. They did a turnaround and did some extra poses for me. I printed it out at the size I wanted to sculpt the figure and did a tracing paper overlay, just blocking out the basic shapes and breaking it down into easier forms for me to start with. And as you can see, I've started laying clay directly onto the turnaround sheet on the front view, just getting the basic profile and sizing right. And then I can remove the clay from the paper and start actually turning it into a 3D figure, just using the other two, well actually all of the views to create a 3D figure, just a basic block out. A simple design like this looks very easy, but it's very important to get the shapes just right. So you'll see throughout this creation of this figure, I am constantly refining the shapes, and even though they're simple, they need to pretty much be spot on or the figure's just going to look incorrect. So that's why I did that basic breakdown of the shapes on tracing paper. It really helps me break down the shapes of the clay. So I can just roll out pieces of clay in the shapes that I have broken down on the paper and then recreate them in the figure. It makes things a lot easier. And having the art printed out at the exact size that I need makes it all the easier. So I can just roll out shapes and lay them against the sheet, and I can see that I've got the shape at the right size. So now that I've got the most basic of forms put together, I'm just slowly building up the forms, especially the head, with little pieces of clay. My clay is fairly warm at this point, so it's really easy to mold. I like to get the figure, the initial block out of the figure, thrown together as quickly as I can, not going too much into detail at first. You can see I laid in the eyes and nose here just to give me some reference points to work off of. The majority of this video is just going to be pretty chill, just watching me go through the smoothing process. And you'll see I will go through some various tools, which I will link to in the description below. For now, I'm just going to let this go, and you can watch as I bring this little guy to life. So I've gotten the figure to a point here that I sent some photos to Aubrey, who did a small red line and wanted the eye to be placed a little differently, which was easy to accomplish. Just scrape off the old one and put on the new one. So from here I'm going to be doing a lot of resculpting, smoothing. You'll see me resculpt the same thing over and over. That's really just the process of refining a figure. Once you've got the base forms in there, it's just time to get your hands dirty and really get those shapes refined and looking accurate. So going off into some more sculpting time, and I'll see you closer to the end. So here I have glued a little egg to the baseboard of foam core, and I sealed the bottom edge to the board. This is prepping the figure for molding. There were some little details that I wanted to add on after I smoothed out the majority of the figure, and that's just a lot easier to do when I have a baseboard that I can grab onto, so I'm not messing up the nice smooth sculpture. So I'm just laying in a couple of fur tuft details along the back of the neck, overlapping that neckline between the body and the head. If I had placed these in originally when I was doing the main sculpture, it just would have been a lot more difficult to sand around these areas and smooth it out. It's easier to get the head and the body all smoothed out, and then I can lay these shapes on top and smooth them in. Doing the same treatment on the tail, adding a few little extra tufts, and then I will smooth everything in. Clay figure here. This is after I had molded it and removed it from the baseboard, but you can see what he looked like in his final form. And then from this guy, I made a mold and then took a single cast, which I cleaned up. Looked like this here. This is my final master cast. You can see where I drew in the seam line for the final mold. Once I made the final mold, here is what one of the casts look like. I'm just going to show a quick overview of the painting process, just using a primer first to even out the surface a little bit and help the paint to adhere to the figure. And then I am airbrushing on the initial layer of pink, since that is his main color. Now we have a montage of all of the painting process. With the white, I probably did 3 or 4 layers to get a nice opaque white. Had a lot of fun kind of recreating Aubrey's style with the line work and the nice crisp edges. It was a lot of fun. Many thanks to them for this opportunity to recreate their adorable little character in 3D. I hope you enjoyed watching their creation. If you got anything out of this video, I sure would appreciate a thumbs up and or a comment. I do a lot of videos on molding, casting, and sculpting. If that sounds like something up your alley, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel out tremendously. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.